Alright, Diablo 4 players, let's talk about it. What is the best DPS class? What is maybe the best caster class? What is the best tank? What is the best support or healer class in the game? And this is kind of a thing in games in general where you see these like trinity. It's basically in a lot of video games, and I get asked quite often, what is the best class in the game? And I wanted to approach it a little bit differently with this video, as there's people that are just jumping into Diablo for their very first time, and they kind of want to play a support or something a little bit different, or they just want to do the most damage, right? And there are so many different builds in Diablo, but there's only so many builds that are actually like viable in the higher tiers of the pit, or even just seen as worth actually building in the community, because it takes quite a long time to build these characters up. It's not like with Overwatch where, oh, I'm tired of playing support, I'm gonna go play tank, and you can't just swap instantly. You're gonna have to build up to it. So this is a video that may help players kind of decide on maybe what to play, or see what else is out there for different playstyles. And if you're looking at this thinking, well, what do you mean support or healer? Now, this is actually something that a lot of people are kind of experimenting a little bit more with now, and this is something that has actually existed in Diablo 3 for actually quite a while. There's something called a ZDPS Barbarian. There's also ZDPS Monks. There's a few different like ways that you can play in a group. Now, obviously, if you're doing 0 damage yourself, or you're playing a support character, you need to actually play in a group in order for this to even exist. So that's where this video comes into play. And if you want more of that sort of support playstyle, well, you can kind of try it. And again, now people are definitely experimenting with some support characters. So for starters, there's really only one class that I feel like can really excel at being a support, and that is going to be the Barbarian. And the reason why the Barbarian is one of the classes that I could say can even really apply as a support kind of role, you can actually have a lot of cooldown with, you know, the Rage Chest Armor, with all of your shouts, with Bold Chieftains, with the ability to consistently pull enemies with Steel Grasp. It actually kind of fits the Diablo 3 ZDPS Barb quite well, where it's just giving your team a bunch of either like heals, or you can give your team a bunch of different buffs. You can utilize this and then taunt the enemies. You have a lot more at your disposal than really just crowd control, because pretty much every single class in this game can play crowd control in their build. But I would say the build that actually happens to have not only crowd control, but also has the ability to support your team better than really anything else is going to be simply the Barbarian. Now, you're going to have to look up a very niche video for this, as there's not that many players that are kind of consistently playing this, because, well, most people just want to deal damage. But speaking of damage, that's the next thing that I actually want to go into, and one of the classes that can actually pull off some of the highest DPS numbers in the game is actually going to be the Barbarian. And the reason why the Barbarian is just simply so strong, it currently has some of the highest pit pushing runs. This is a Flay Barbarian, and the Flay Barbarian actually just received a nice buff. So the Flay Barbarian is going to be very strong. Now, the reason why the Flay build is so strong is you can get incredible duration of the bleed, so these numbers will start stacking in the millions and billions, and it's quite easy to actually gear up, as now a lot of people are dropping some of the uber uniques, because before with bleed a lot of players were playing with the grandfather, but now people are actually playing without it, so it could be a little bit easier. But if you're really looking at for number damage in terms of smaller monsters, keep in mind this is a 137 pit. You're not going to be just one tapping things. Now, you could definitely go into like different areas of the game, and you could basically kill any content that the game normally has to offer, with the exception of like doing 200 pit. Like any of the Uber bosses, if you need to be a runner for certain bosses for your team, this is one of the best classes, because, well, the Rupture Barbarian with specifically Flay just simply outputs the most amount of damage. Now, for some of the smaller trash stuff, if you're kind of like wondering, well, what's kind of good with the Trash Killer? Well, I'm playing a variant of the Charge Bash Barbarian, and this is a really good beginner-friendly build, as what it allows you to do is just kind of apply your damage to everything, because Charge will then proc your Pain Gorger Gauntlets, so it's really good for clearing up the trash. The Bash Barbarian actually has one of the best DPS for most of the smaller stuff, but there's also a Whirlwind build, which we'll talk about in a second. But in terms of like numerical numbers for DPS, I don't really feel like there's anything that even comes close to Barb. The Andariel Rogue build can put out quite some damage, but it's not even close to Barbarian in terms of like the higher end things, what is pushed the highest in the pit. I'd still say Barbarian's overall going to be the fan favorite, even though the leaderboard, depending on which leaderboard you're looking at, it could differ, but there is the most variety, especially for the Barbarian. Now, the next thing I want to go into is actually kind of a caster. What if you like to play kind of a ranged build? You don't like the melee playstyle, that's totally cool. And I get it, there's people that like to play different sort of things in the game. And so if I was to try to suggest a ranged class, would I suggest the rogue? No. The actual better build is actually going to be the Barbarian. So what we're going to be doing as a caster, we're going to be casting these tornadoes. It's a great build over here by Rob. So Barbarian is going to be one of the best casters in this game because you have the ability to be ranged. They just gave 100% damage to the whirlwinds, and people are speed running 100 plus really fast. So the Barbarian actually is going to be one of the best caster builds because you can cast these tornadoes as well as shoot out these bolts from the Tyrell's Might uber unique armor. So that's going to be another way that you can actually play, and that is going to support more so of a range or a caster sort of a playstyle. So if that's what you are into, then that is definitely something that you can consider as well. Next up though, I do want to talk about maybe a tank class. Which class can actually tank? Which one is like the most formidable class? I was honestly going to put the Immortal Sorceress build, but then thinking about the numerical stats that we're looking at, where you can get like 400,000 life, which no class can realistically get, but the way that it plays is, well, you have to have immortality, and I think it's much easier for most people to just try to build into Thorns, because if you're going to be super tanky, well, you still need to actually output some DPS, and well, I'm pretty sure that eventually they will delete the Sorceress build for immortality, because they did try to delete it, but unfortunately it was not successful with the hectic aspect getting nerfed. So I gotta recommend something that I think won't get nerfed, and this is going to be one of the best tankier classes in the game, and that's going to be the Barbarian. So with the Thorns Barbarian, you're going to be incredibly tanky, and the reason why you get so tanky with this build is specifically going to be because the more HP that you get, the more Thorns that you get, and so the more damage that you're going to be dealing. So you actually kind of scale your character in two different ways. The tankier that you get is going to make your character deal more damage, so it's basically like a double win. So that's why that one is a very awesome thing to play, and there's a really good content creator, Do Not Hit Me, that's been playing Thorns, and some of the damage that you can output on some of these Thorns are pretty crazy. Again, when you're looking at the higher tier of the pit, you're not going to see, you know, one taps, but even if you were to, let's say, go into like the Lilith or again a lot of other things, it's still going to be one of the classes that actually has the most variety. If we're looking at the list over here at the top of the leaderboards here, you can see Barbarian's got Thorns, we've got Flay Rupture, we've got Bleeding Bash, we've got Regular Bash. There's a lot more where if you look at something like the Rogue, if I was to click on the Rogue, what do you see? Well, it's just all Heartseeker. Then there's one guy that did Pen Shot, but it's pretty much just one build, right? If you go to Sorceress, well, it's just Firebolt. These are all kind of the same one Firebolt. It's all variants of Firebolts. And with the Rogue, well, it's all Heartseeker. With the Necromancer, it's usually Golems or Mages. You kind of have two options. And then with Druid, it's pretty much just Wind Shear or Tornado. But Barbarian actually has the most variety when it comes to the different ways that you can actually build your character. While Thorns may be a little bit less popular, it's still going to be objectively, I would say, the most tanky class. While you do technically have immortality with the Sorceress, with again the build, I would say that's probably something on the chopping block. So to make this video not outdated, because sometimes, you know, maybe by the time this video is out, they've already nerfed it and it's gone. But the thing is that, yeah, immortality probably won't exist for the next upcoming, I don't know, patch. Maybe they'll because they still need to update the Andariel's patch, because that's another reason why, well, Barbarian is just better, because, well, if you're looking for a damage over time build, the Andariel's build's very good, but Barbarian is simply stronger. Now, originally, I wanted to make this video serious, but after doing research, this is actually the truth. I was actually just checking out if I could find something like, you know, interesting in the Diablo community, and, you know what I was looking up, and this was like the most popular, like, posts from today, was you're building a character with all of the unique items, which class would actually have the most viable build? And this person responded, when you ask about which class is better, the answer is always Barb. Doesn't matter the question. And he is absolutely right. I mean, look at how many upvotes. There's Barb, of course, over here. You have another post that's talking about how in the world did Barb get more skills buff than Sword? And there's also another post that was related, and it was talking about the Druid, because Druid was kind of a class where I felt like it was kind of lacking as well. But like in reality, it's just straight up Barbarian in like every single category. You talk about Tal Rasha over here, here. And like one of the other things that someone pointed out, which I thought was actually kind of funny, was also just talking about the Barbarian over here. They're working on Barb over here. They outsourced the Sork dev on Craigslist. There's another, wait, where was that? There was another post over here that was talking about Barb, but they were just saying, okay, D4 response prediction, working as 10, random Barb, buff to compensate or nothing, tough call. Wait, hold on, I think I need to hit view more. There was another post with Barbarian. Oh, here we go. At this point, I expect nothing works properly unless it's for the Barbarian, and then it's 10 times more powerful and will probably be buffed again soon. I was really surprised, honestly, that Flay got a buff, but even though this video kind of started off originally as a meme, I'm very serious when I say that Barb is pretty much the best class in every single category. So to answer the question, whether you want to play DPS, whether you want to play support, whether you want to play a caster build, whether you want to play basically anything in the game, Barbarian is the best option all around, guys. Anyways, that's going to wrap up the vid. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe from that bell, and maybe you'll see some more Barbarian builds coming out very soon, Cafu. But anyways, take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. By the way, this is not a joke. Barbarian is legitimately like the best class. Anyways, peace out.